Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, welcome back. Welcome to Cloud and DevOps Back to 8. So before I start the session, I just want to give a quick recap on what's been covered in the previous session. Previous session, what we did was we analyzed that creating uh, Kubernetes manifest where is very, it's not the right way of doing it. So what we did was we went, okay, second, let explain. Yeah. We look at this expense V1. I just wrote a single YAML file, but it's not right. You need to write it n number of times, which is not a great way of dealing, right? Now, what I did, I created Helm chat. Okay, I created Helm chat again. One more point, I created a Helm chat, and the way how I created the Helm chat is in a very basic and minimum by creating pod. In fact, no one uses pod, right? No one uses pod. Instead, people uses deployment. Right now, I want to parameterize this as well. Okay, I want to parameterize this as well. So I would like to go with deployment. Okay, and I also want to make the schema injection to that. Okay, I would like to make the schema injection through this. Okay, so front end service I don't want. Okay, okay. And back end service I don't want. Okay, just MySQL, MySQL service and schema loader. Only these three I want. Okay, copy this. Okay, just for the sake of it. Done. And again, I don't want this. This I want to go through. Okay, Helm itself. Down the line, we'll be taking MySQL and the service not on the top of Kubernetes. Instead, we'll go with the manager service. But for now, we'll try to target it through manifest only. Okay. So, but rest of these aspects, there is a lot more improvisation that we can do in the Helm itself. We'll try to do. Okay, and then we will try to do the deployments using Helm. Using okay. So let's try to see what's next. Okay, what's next? Okay, so we'll see some more advanced options and Helm, and we'll try to optimize the charts using those options. Next, uh, we would like let's target deployments of Helm using UI. Okay, I don't want to do manually using UI, which is nothing but ArgoCD. Okay, ArgoCD is a Kubernetes K8 based. Okay, it's a deployment tool for K8s. Okay, so ArgoCD is absolutely designed. This is a free tool designed for Kubernetes. It has reconciliation. It has reconnaissance. So reconnaissance means continually observe. Okay, reconciliation. Okay, reconciliation means if someone tries to do changes on the top of the cluster manually, it just considers Git as a source of truth. Okay, we'll see both of these options down the line today itself. But for now, we'll start with optimizing the options. Okay, so any questions, anyone? Also, these many files are there, right? These are a little overwhelming. What I would like to do is uh, mm, okay. So what I would like to do is I just want to keep everything into basics file. Okay, because it is looking so lengthy. And let me do one thing, okay? Basics. Open recording. Yeah. So that the size should be better. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's all. Config draft, get rid of it. See, this way it looks clean. Okay, okay. Matrix server, yes. Right. Okay, all right. So what I would like to do is I just don't want to go with Helm charts of mod. Okay, because this is not the reality. So what I would like to do is I would like to go with front end and back end to the deployments because that's the reality. Okay, I would like to go with that. Okay, so before I proceed further, anyone have any questions? Anyone? Am I audible? Anyone? Yeah. Okay. Let's start with this. Okay. So I don't want to go with pod. Okay. So instead I'll just gonna go with the deployment.yaml because it has its own advantages. You're well aware of it, so I don't want to discuss on it. Okay. Copy this. So let's try to take deployment.yaml. Go to basics, get the deployment, get this, and close it. Go to deployment.yaml. That's it. So here name is this. Okay. Labels. That's it. Name is .ranges.append. The image is this. Container port. These I don't care at this point of time. So deployment dot values dot app name dot values dot app name. Replicas. Let's go with dot values dot replicas. Okay. So let's try to supply them. So here, one. This is the count of the replicas for the front and the back end. Okay, because we are maturing the product. Then. Uh, then containers. Okay, that's it. Yeah, perfect. Let's try to publish it. And also, backend I got it, front end I got it, this one I got it. Everything is fine. Next, what I want is first let's try to deploy just MySQL.ml. Okay, so KGN, kube control get nodes. Okay, KGP get pods. Okay, KGD. KC get deploy. I don't see any deployments. KGP keep control get pods. There are no deployments. So cd to learn Kubernetes. Okay. GP 32000 expense expense hyphen v1 kf just right. So it's going to deploy the MySQL pod and the service, the KGP. And if you want to see the status of it, you can see W. It continuously watches the status of it. Let's wait for it, whether it is coming up or not. Okay, perfect. Now I would like to see the logs of it. KLF, keep control logs hyphen F. I just want to see. Perfect. It has been started and it is coming up. Perfect. But what is the status of it? Okay, it's running. Now what I would like to do is I just want to apply. Okay, so first I would like to apply my backend and then my front. Okay, so let's try to go with backend. So go to the Helm charts. Okay, LSI So Helm install Helm upgrade. So you know the difference between Helm install versus Helm upgrade hyphen install, right? This makes sure the backend is available. So first let's go with the backend. So let's go with the backend. Okay. So since you are already in the directory, you don't have to mention, just go out and try to do it. Okay. So I'm doing it for the backend first, and then I'll try to do the front end. Okay. Let them come up. And Helm list is going to show you the list of charts installed. You can see the backend chart is installed and the front end chart is installed. So through the charts, you can parameterize, you can deploy n number of resources at a time. You can see both of them are successfully deployed. Okay, status is deployed. So let's come here and try to see this KGP. Okay, and you can see MySQL is running and front end is also running, but backend is running. I know the reason, because backend don't have schema. Okay. Okay, this is aware. This I'm well aware of it. Okay, because schema has to be injected. Now I don't want to put the schema injection through this. Backend is the component that needs schema. Okay, so I'll ask you one question: who needs schema? Who needs schema? Who is the component that talks to backend? Anyone? Rachit Divedi? Anyone? Anyone in the class? Who needs that? Anyone? Anyone? Vikram? Who needs the schema? Who talks to the backend? MySQL? Anyone? 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 Who talks? Who talks?
Backend will talk to schema.
Exactly. So I would like to keep the schema injection from the backend only. Okay. Now let me try to go here itself, schema injection. Okay, I would like to go through the schema injection from here itself. Okay. Let's do it. Thank you, Rachit. You're right. So I would like to do the schema injection from here itself. Okay. So let me try to do it. Okay, so this way it helps me in injecting the schema. Okay. So let me try to target injecting the schema. Okay. Mm, what else? One more point I forgot. One more point. So here, if you look at this, okay, this is another important thing. Here, if you look at the pod, okay, we are supplying the values, right? So for the backend, okay, we are not supplying. For the front end, we are not supplying, right? But for the backend, we need to supply. So how did we supply it in the last time? Okay, how did we supply? Obviously, last time it didn't work through Helm. Okay, if you look at the expense V1 expense, if you look at the back end, okay, so we have supplied the details of it, right? So this I also need to supply it to the deployment. So this should be needed. Okay, then only backend comes to know what is the endpoint of the SQL, right? You come here and try to supply it. Okay, all right. Okay, now, so here DB host MySQL, but what is the caveat if I do it? This is just needed for whom? Backend. But since it's a templated file, you should never hardcode something that is specific to everything. Okay. You need to make sure uh, this would be coming up only for the uh, only for the backend, not for everyone. So what I would like to do is what I'm thinking is I can create a config map. Mm, this should be only for backend. How can I do it? Mm, okay. So what I would like to do is these values, I would like to supply it as a config map. So let's try to create it as a config map. Okay. All right. So let's try to get the config map from the basics. So where is the config map? There is a config map. Let's try to get the config map. Done. So here in the config map, okay. So how the name will be dot values dot app name, right? So I'll just say dot values dot app name, labels. So how are we using the labels? So here are the labels that we are using. Go here. So I'll also try to give the labels. Done. Data. That's where things comes up. Now data, okay, here I really don't want just to give it like this. Okay. Okay, listen carefully. If I give like this is a very bad way to deal. Okay. The reason why this is not a great way is because this is a template. You should not hard code it. So these values I should come from elsewhere. Okay, these values we should come from elsewhere. Okay, so how do we get it? So if you look at the Helm chart that we have created in the past, basics, LSFNLTR, okay, sample chart, Helm create sample dry run, right? Helm create test chart. Okay, now cd to test chart, LSFNLTR, okay, cd to templates. Let's try to see how things looks like. Okay, now if you try to look at anything, okay, like any template file, cat deployment.yaml, you can see a lot of conditions here. Okay, so what, for example, if you look at this, it means is to YAML. Okay, so whatever is there in this particular, so you define the structure in the values file that will be taken and placed it here with an indentation of 8. Okay, maybe we can use this. Okay, copy this, and it is also telling with values dot with values dot env. Okay, that means this comes up. Okay, if you see this, this is an if condition. Okay, let's assume this is an if condition. So if values of, if image pull secrets value is defined, okay, then only take these values. If values dot image pull secret is not defined, then don't even consider this. It is just like an if condition. Maybe we can use it. Okay, so I'll come here, inside the data, I'll try to put it. Okay, okay, so here I don't use it. So instead what I want to do is with the values dot env. Okay, so with values dot env and with values dot env. Okay, with values dot env, and this is what I would like to put. Okay, it's the 2 YAML. All right, so 2 YAML, 2 YAML indent. So indent 2 means 2 tabs. So just 2 tabs is enough. So whatever I would like to keep is, okay, 2 YAML with values dot env. Okay, so let me try to supply env. So env. So this env for the front end, it should be nothing. Okay, so this is like defining empty map. Okay, but for backend, my value should be different. Okay, for backend, what are my values? So for backend, here are my values. Correct? DB host MySQL SVC. Okay, DB host MySQL SVC. That's it. DB host. Okay, perfect. Now if you go here, now here, what it will be coming up is you don't have to mention anything. Okay, because it will be coming up from there. Okay, now config map we have defined. So with values, okay, with values dot env. So the data with values dot env. So in the backend, what was given? Okay, so env, this will be coming up. Okay, so if with values dot env, if values dot env is declared, okay, or whatever the values that is declared here, just copy and put it here. That's what it meant. Okay, so we got the value done. Now, perfect. Now dot values dot config map. Okay, perfect. Now we need to inject it. How can we inject it? Okay, now for front end and back end, config map will be created. Okay, uh, so whether you have the value data in the config map or not, it creates a config map. But how do you inject it? How do you inject it? That is another thing, right? How do we inject? So how do you inject it? Again, think config map reference or something. So let's try to see the config map example only. So here we are using config map. They are using config map reference. Yeah, ANV from config map reference. This is how we can use. All right. So config map and config map reference in the expense Helm charts, go to the deployment. Okay, in the deployment, what I can do is that's it. So here the config map preference. Okay, you just mention it as a from config map preference. So this is the name of the value. Dot values dot happening. That's it. So every time a config map will be injected, whether the config map will have values or not is a secondary story. Okay. Now we have the Helm charts. Now schema injection, right? Now schema injection. Okay. Okay. Now schema injection. How it looks like? This is how it looks like, right? A schema injection. So how schema injection is happening? This is how schema injection is happening. Correct. So go here and try to make this schema injection. Again, this is a template. I don't want to parameterize it. Again, uh, this should only be, see, this, when this should only be executed, when you're running, when you're installing the front end or when you're installing the back end, when this has to be installed. Anyone, anyone, anyone. Sorry, Girisha?
Backend.
Perfect. So if I don't mention any condition, what will happen? Whether you install front end or whether you install back end or whether you install anything, this will be picked up, correct? So I need to put a condition saying that this should only be considered if it is backend. Okay. How do we do it? Okay. First schema loader. Let's get it first. Okay. Schema loader backend. Okay. Next schema loader. Everything is fine, but I don't want values to be coming up from here. I want values to be coming up from the config map. Okay. So what I can do is I can just take these values and take and go to the backend. So here I can supply the values. Okay. App repo. Okay. App repo is equal to this. Next. Login host is equal to MySQL service. Login user is equal to root. Login password is equal to expense app. Because I don't want to do anything through manual approach. Okay, wherever it is possible, we'll try to put things optimized. Okay. And trust me, guys, I worked in companies where standardization of code was given higher priority. I also worked on companies where they don't care anything whether application is working or not. Okay. You should always be fortunate to work with companies where they are given high code standards. Okay. The companies that gives you high code standards are the companies that helps you grow. Okay. You as an engineer, you'll have a work-life satisfaction. Okay. So keep that point in mind. All right. So this schema injection, this is also completed. Now I would like to get the config map preference using this. Okay, schema injection. Okay, done. Okay. Anything else? Now this should only be true for the backend. So how can we do it? Mm, 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 mm. Maybe I can say, uh, okay. Maybe I'll say something like this. Okay. Schema loader. Schema loader enabled. Enable true for backend. What should be the option for front end? What should I give? True or false? Anyone? Anyone? Should you give it as true or false here? Rachit, Mahindra, should you give as true or false for front end?
False it is.
That's it. Okay. Now I get it. Now I'm mention it. So in the same file itself, you get a lot of options. So let's try to see LSF multi arcat. HPA.yaml. Yeah, can you see this? If dot values dot autoscaling dot enabled. Okay, cat. Okay, if you see dot values dot autoscaling enabled. Okay, so can you see this? If autoscaling dot this is equal to false, then it will not work. Perfect. Okay, so let's try to see this. You can use this option. Okay, copy this and you can put it here. All right. So this simple, this makes, okay, this makes this file will only be kicked out if it is schema enabled is equal to true, schema loader enabled. That's all. Okay. Okay, schema loader enabled. That's it. Okay, just if condition. Okay, so even if you don't give, I can just do in a hard way, but that's not the great way, by the way. Okay, now anything else? Schema loader is equal to false. I think, yeah, that's it. Let's try to upgrade it now. Okay, now CD2. Okay, so backend git fill. Did I push the code? Okay. Okay, Helm upgrade install backend MySQL jar starts. Now this time it's going to inject the schema. Okay. Now you can also see Helm list version 2 will be deployed. Can you see this? So if you just want to go back to the previous version, you can always go back. Okay. Helm list. You can see version 2 got deployed backend. Okay. Now KGP keep control get pods. Now backend pod, okay, is still creating. Okay, perfect. Schema loader is deployed. Okay, I'm very happy. Let's try to get rid of the parts. Maybe it takes some time. Okay, but let's not worry. It will work. Okay, let's wait. Let's this get destroyed. Let's just get deleted. Let this get destroyed. KGP. Okay, perfect. Can you see this? All of them are working. Okay, now come here and try to see this. KLF. Okay, perfect. Application is working. Okay, KLF. Okay, perfect. Now what I would like to do is I just want to access the application KGS. Okay, KC get SVC. No, I would like to see whether it is working or not. It should work. And again, 2 to 3 people complained against, okay, the moment they create this, it is not working. So technically it is going to provisional load balancer. Okay, so even on the UI, if you create a load balancer, it takes 2 to 3 minutes of time. So don't worry. So the easiest way is try to make an NS lookup whether it is resolving or not. Okay, just bear with it for 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, now try to access it. You should be able to see the front end of the application. I'm sorry, maybe I was wrong. Yeah. Um, let's wait. It should work. Perfect. Okay, let's try to add an expense. Um, Perfect. It is working. Perfect. Superb. Okay, with a single click of a button, we get everything. All right. Any questions, anyone? Okay, the only backlog item is, okay, we need to move away. Okay, backlog. MySQL should be on AWS Manager Service, Clouds, okay, RTS, because it is a mature solution. So this is a backlog item which we have to deal. Apart from this, any questions, anyone? Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Any questions? Okay, perfect. So guys, now next what I want to do is, okay, let's open Miro. Miro board. Okay. Now what I would like to do is, I would like to make my deployments using Argo. Okay. So what is Argo? First, let's try to understand the problem use case. Why ArgoCD? Why ArgoCD? This is the deployment tool for Kubernetes. Okay. Where are you going to install? On the EKS cluster, on the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. What are the specialities? Okay. It offers UI so that you don't have to deploy the Helm chats using CLI. Next, it offers reconnaissance. Okay. What do you mean by reconnaissance? Reconnaissance is like continuous monitoring. Monitoring. Okay. So if there are any changes on the Helm chats on cloud, on GitHub, it immediately updates. Okay. Next is reconnaissance, reconciliation. Okay. That means if you, for example, you made a deployment with the version 1 or Nginx version 1, you went into the cluster and into the deployment and you manually updated the version from version 1 to version 2. It immediately reverts the changes and tries to make whatever is there on the code as a source of the reconciliation. Okay. If you make some changes manually on the cluster, okay, it immediately, the Argo controller, Argo CD controller, immediately okay, you would have heard these terms reconciliation and reconnaissance in movies. Usually in Hollywood movies, you would have seen it. Okay, let me try to explain what exactly I meant by it. Okay, so here what we are going to do is, okay, typically if you assume this as your EKS cluster, okay, again Okay, this is designed only for Kubernetes. Okay, so for non-Kubernetes based, we are using Argo. Okay, so for example, this is your application. Okay, EKS cluster, this cluster. Okay, so your Argo CD can also be on the same cluster or on the other cluster. Anything is fine. Okay, let's say this is your okay, and now you are going to deploy Argo CD on the top of another EKS. Okay, it can be typically all the tools will be installed in a separate EKS cluster. Okay, tools cluster, tools EKS. Okay, tools EKS cluster. Okay, and this is apps EKS cluster. All the apps are deployed here. That's it. Now what we are going to do is, okay, so we are going to deploy Argo CD on the top of this particular. Again, Argo CD is also a deployment, okay, which has a capability of uh, doing all the needed things. Okay, let's assume this has your Argo CD. Now for this Argo CD, you will give the details of this app EKS cluster. Okay, now from here, it is going to do the deployments to the workloads on the top of this front end. Backend. Okay, so this is the guy who is going to do the deployments, just like using Argo CD, how we made the deployments. Likewise, you are also going to do the deployments. Okay, so this is not just for deployments. Okay, not just for deployments. It also has a concept of deployments. Correct. So when you say deployment, what exactly does that mean? Okay, whatever is in there in the code, it is going to apply. Correct, from the GitHub. So let's try to take from the GitHub. So all it does is, okay, so it takes the code from the GitHub. Okay, okay, it takes the code from the GitHub and then it develops it and deploys it. Okay, it reads the code from the GitHub and it try to deploys it. Okay, this is the regular deployment strategy, but it also has something called as a reconnaissance. Whenever you click something, it's going to do the deployment. So it also has a reconnaissance. Reconnaissance means, okay, this continuously, okay, when you enable reconnaissance, okay, so it's in the automatic mode. Okay, when you do this, reconnaissance is nothing but automatic mode. When you do some deployments in the automatic mode, so what it does is it continuously look for the changes on the GitHub. It continuously look for the changes on GitHub. Okay, if there are any changes on the GitHub, like from Nginx version 1 to version 2, if you have updated on the top of your Helm chat, okay, this controller reads, oh, there are some changes on the top of this particular deployment, and immediately it makes the deployment on the top of it. That means those changes are immediately updated on the top of it. Okay, this is called as a reconnaissance. Okay, there is also something called as a reconciliation. So reconciliation means, okay, so this means the controller continuously reads the current state of the, okay, I'm repeating, it continuously looks at the current state of the cluster, and if, okay, and if there are any deviations, for example, if here you are having front end as v2. I deployed it with version 1 through the Helm, okay, through the Argo. Someone came and manually updated it to v2. For every 30 seconds or 60 seconds, it keeps looking, oh, there are some changes, okay. So which with respect to GitHub, whatever the value that is there is v1, but whatever you see is v2. There are some changes. Immediately the controller reverts the changes to v1 only. Okay, so this is called as a reconciliation. Okay, this ArgoCD has both reconciliation and reconnaissance. So here in this training, okay, we cannot afford one more EKS cluster. We are going to put ArgoCD as also on the same EKS cluster. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so we'll see that how it goes. All right, any questions, anyone? Any questions? Taking a pause to take up any questions if anyone have. Any questions? Questions? Am I audible, anyone? Can someone please confirm me?
Yes, Manoj, audible. Eh,
Okay, are we clear by the way?
Yes, Manoj, I am clear.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So what I would like to do is ArgoCD. Okay. I'll just try to put ArgoCD here. Okay, done. I'd like to call this as okay. Now I just want to get this information and try to get this. Okay. So what I would like to do is okay, this is an auto-generated file from the official website. Okay. Do not change anything. Okay. Do not change anything. All right. It works as is. Any questions? Do not change anything. Okay. So just to copy this, you can use it. If not, you can also see this is a 30,000 file, or if you are not interested, you can also just say ArgoCD install. That's it. Okay. It tells you the step-by-step instructions on how to do what to do. Okay. You can also come here and try to get this. Okay. It also tells the same. Can you see this? This is an auto-generated file. Okay. Clear. But I did some small slight modifications just to save time. Okay. Okay. I just put everything here. That's it. So we just need to deploy this. It's going to get me whatever is needed. Okay. So yeah. Okay. This is going to deploy the argo.yml. Again, do not edit. I repeat, do not edit. But this is not going to offer anything exposing to the public. But in our case, I want to do it I want to expose it. I just want to expose it. Do we have any service? Mm, uh, yeah. So here, if you see this, Okay, though this is a service, this is ArgoCD server metrics, but this is for a service to expose it. Okay, but it is by default it is cluster IP. I just want to expose it. So what I would like to do is, okay, type as a load balancer. Okay, and no one can read this. Okay, and also one more thing, if you look at this and which namespace all these installations are happening, all the namespaces are happening on this. Okay, make sure you create a namespace for it. Okay, so then you can make the deployments. Okay, let's try to publish it. Publishing ArgoCD deploys ArgoCD, and again I clearly mentioned do not edit. Okay, this is just a file that we got it from the this particular place. Just okay, so just make sure you get it. Mhm. Okay, all right, so you can get this. Okay, just to copy it and make sure you create a namespace. Okay. Okay, perfect. Again, I want this to be done as a part of the cluster creation. Again, tomorrow I don't want to come and do all this. EKS, right? Bash create.df. So here I also want to do one thing. Keep control, create ns ArgoCD. Okay. Apply -f. One step back, ArgoCD. This one, argo.yaml. Okay. Again, going forward, I don't want to do anything manually, okay? Because just before the session, I don't want to go create blah blah blah. No, I don't want to do anything manually, okay? So cd to EKS. Okay, bash create.sh. That's it. Now it should, I mean, there are no changes on the cluster with respect to infrastructure, since in the bootstrap script, which is nothing but in create.script, I have mentioned kube control create ns, ArgoCD, and kube control apply f. It should do that job. Okay, ensure you create the namespace. If not, things will be screwed. Okay, how do I know? Because if you look at this, okay, to install ArgoCD, what they're doing first, create this. This will create a new namespace, ArgoCD, where ArgoCD services and everything will be learning. That's all. That's what they're saying. Okay. And you also need to download the ArgoCD CLI if you want to interact with ArgoCD. You can interact with ArgoCD just like GoCD, either by using UI or CLI. Okay. So perfect. So ArgoCD.yaml doesn't exist. Why? Why? Argo.yaml, it's there, right? Okay. Kubernetes, ArgoCD. That's it, raw. Okay, then I'll tell like this. Okay, let's see. Now it's going to connect. It's going to take some time, like 2 to 3 minutes of time. Okay. Don't worry on it. Oh, Perfect. It's pretty quick. Okay. KC get NS. And every time you hit the command kube control get NS. Okay. So every time if you want to say something, again you need to type hyphen n all the time, right? If you don't want that, okay, there is a command called as kube ns which you can install it. And if you say kube ns ArgoCD, every time you run any sort of command, okay, by default those commands will be executed on that particular namespace. Okay, ArgoCD is there, and KC get all hyphen n ArgoCD. A lot of components are available underneath it. Okay, what happened? They are created here, which I don't want. Okay, let me get rid of it. Okay, I don't want things to be here. Let me delete everything. Okay, this is the advantage. Okay, everything comes up, goes quick. That is the reason applications and packaging are going through Helm nowadays. Okay. Okay. Now what I'll say is, okay, and I'll just say this means whether if it is already available, okay, if this is already there, then don't create. I mean, you don't get an error, by the way. That's it. Okay. Refresh. Let's wait for it. My goal is to do the deployments using Helm. Okay. There are no infrastructure changes. All right. Get on. Now see, everything will be deployed. Perfect. Okay. KC get SVC. Now you should get one service, ArgoCD service. So let's try to make an NS lookup of it. Not this one. That is ArgoCD. Okay. So let's see. I don't think it will work because it's gonna take some time. Okay. So while true, sleep 0.5, done. Dude. Ah. Okay, perfect. It is working. Okay, and okay, it's working. Now go ahead and try to access it. You should be able to access it. Since it is a Kubernetes based one, you get the secret, the default value in a secret. Okay, so KC gets secrets -n ArgoCD. Now ArgoCD secret or initial admin secret. So which one should I use? Maybe initial admin secret. Okay. All right. This is a secret. Now this will be the base 64. So how do I convert into how can I encode it? How can I decode it? Anyone? How can I decode this? Who can answer me? Who can answer this to me? Anyone can answer this to me? Anyone who is interested? Shailaja, Mahendra, Vikram, anyone? Anyone? How can I decode? Simple. We learned this, okay? Just base 64-D. Okay, the password is this. All right. Now come here and try to enter it. Okay, this is how we get the password of it. Okay, and the admin is admin, I think, as far as I know. Perfect. Now I just saved it. This is how your ArgoCD looks like. Okay, so whatever the deployments for the front end or back end, whatever you want, okay, you can create a new app. So by default, it will have one project. Okay, so if you're having multiple projects like RoboShop project, expense project, or some payments project, different projects, and under the project, if you have applications, you can create a project, and under the project, you can create applications. Okay, so in our case, since we have only one project, there is no point of creating a project. Okay, you can directly create a application, which is nothing but new app. So here in okay, by the way, before that, I'll just try to uninstall it. Okay, uninstall front end and back end. Okay, because we'll try to make it through Helm. Okay, not Helm, this one, Argo. So I just want to call it as a backend. So where you want to create this, I would like to create this in a default project and sync policy. So whether you want reconnaissance to be manual or automatic. When you say reconnaissance is automatic, okay, by default your Argo CD controller by default goes and checks for it continuously for the changes. If it is manual, you need to go and just say sync. Okay, so that's it. Next, it does Argo series to deploy the Helm charts. Okay, so you can come here and you can also mention the source. So either it is a Git or SVN or Helm, you can mention mine is a Git. Okay, you can also store your charts on a Helm repo as well. Okay, but for now my charts are on Git. I can just say here are my charts. 358 learn is my repo. Copy this. I need to mention it. Okay, now head, which is nothing but most recent, and path. Okay, see, it by default knows. Okay, if you look at this, okay, since you have, okay, it read your repository and it knows under the Helm charts you have the actual charts. Okay, so it has that intelligence. Next, destination where you want to deploy it. So by default, okay, where Argo CD has to do the deployments. Okay, so for example, in our case, okay, both of them are on the single place. Okay, if both Argo CD and front end and back end, all the applications are in different namespace, you need to mention the cluster details. Okay, so which in our case, Kubernetes.default.svc, which is nothing but the local cluster. Your Argo CD and deployments are happening on the same cluster. But if you look at this, okay, KC get NS, your applications are running on the default namespace and the tools are running on the Argo CD. This is the common strategy, by the way. Okay, so namespace. So cluster destination. Okay, where do you want to do the deployments. Okay, I would like to make the deployments on the top of the default. Okay, so I'm telling I want my backend deployment should be done on the top of this cluster underneath this particular namespace. So what is the values file of your particular project? Or you can also mention the values of a particular value. Okay, so my backend deployment should happen by using the file called as a backend.yaml, backend.yaml. So go here and try to say it. Okay, that's it. Then, so now you can go ahead and try to create it. Now your backend application will be created. It says unable to create application as a error. Charts template.svc expense. It says there is some error from version 1.31. It says service.yaml 618. I think this is not accepting service.yaml 6.18. But it worked in the past, right? Sorry. That's it. Okay. Now unable to create the application spec for the backend, invalid spec, unable to generate manifest in Helm charts, RPC code unknown, Helm template FNF and backend. Okay. Include CRDs fail again. Executing expense. Values service type. Values service type is null pointer. Okay. Values service type is null pointer. Okay. So I think we need to mention it seems. That is correct only, but how did it work all these days? Okay, I already mentioned, right? Dot values dot service dot type backend dot yaml. I already mentioned it. Then why it is not complaining? The complaint it is giving is nil pointer evaluating. Use a default flag to render output. This is interesting. Why it didn't work? Service type. Okay. Hmm. I'll just for now. Okay. Just for now, just to rule that out. I don't understand why it is complaining. Okay. Just for the heck of it. Okay. Helm template mechanisms. Okay, API version removed. Okay, failed error template. Okay, chart templates. What is this? I didn't understand this. uh, what is it complaining about? Okay, dot values dot service. Oh, still it is complaining about line 60. Okay, maybe create backend. Helm. Now if I get the same error. Okay, now I'm getting so chart template service.yaml 620 executing expense YAML nil pointer values.service.type. Why? I don't think so. because of it. This is interesting. Why Helm is not accepting? Hey, come on. What is this? Because it is working, right? But here it is working. Why it is not working here? Why Helm is not considering that? If is but here it is working, right? What happened to this? Why it's not allowing me to create? What's the front end? Oh, come on. Unable to create application spec for front end, invalid spec error, unable to generate manifest in Helm. ArgoCD image. Okay. 210.4, 210.4, 210.4, to the yeah, but why it is not working? Did I do any mistake? Okay, no, I didn't do any mistake, because if I do some mistake, it will not work. Or am I missing anything? Then why it is complaining about it? Master URL, this one default. Helm values backend. I didn't understand if it's working, right? Then why it is complaining about all that nonsense? Dot values dot service dot type nil pointer evaluating. Hmm, okay, just for now, I'll just try to comment a service, okay? Just to rule it out, okay? It's complaining about svc.yaml, right? Just to rule that out, I'm just commenting it, okay? I even removed it. Then why you are complaining? There is no such thing. Come on. Now it's complaining about still this. Can you see this? Chart template service.yaml. But in fact, I'm not even using. That means something got cached. Okay. Let's try one more time. Okay. Come on. Why it includes? So it's still complaining about service.yml expense chart templates, expense chart templates. Okay, expense chart. Where is the expense chart? I didn't mention anything expense chart, right? I mentioned Helm charts. Executing expense chart. What is this expense chart? From where it is coming from? Is it Helm having charts? Why it is complaining about unable to create application spec for backend, invalid spec error, unable to generate manifest in Helm charts, RPC. This is interesting. This is getting cached somewhere, and because of that, it is getting. Uh, if it doesn't work, I'll just give it a try. Okay. The problem with this is they keep on change. Okay. You should be really up to the date on what's going on around it. Hmm. Okay. Let me try to read this error. Okay. Unable to create the app. Again, this is not a showstopper. Okay. Or I don't know. Okay, I'll figure it out in the offline and get back to you guys. Okay, why we are not able to create the apps? Okay, but that's fine. Any questions, anyone so far? It's just a 2 to 3 minutes task. Okay, once it is done, we'll go with the network. Okay, and then from network we'll try to proceed from there. Okay. Any questions, anyone? Any questions? Can someone please confirm? Am I audible? Mahendra, Vikram, Rachit, Harish, Grisha, Ambit.
Yes, you are audible.
All right.
Yes,
So
yes.
what we achieved were Helm charts. Okay. Now the error that we got was we were able to install the Argo, but when we are creating an application, because I want a UI, okay, because I don't want to run Helm create, Helm install, all these things manually. I want my scripts to do it. Okay, that's where I'm heading towards. All right, we'll see that tomorrow. Okay, I don't want to waste time, but that's it. And tomorrow in first 2 to 3 minutes itself we'll fix it, and rest of the day, if you remember, we created we created network and all these things, right? We'll do it through Terraform. Okay, we'll conclude one strategy. How are we going to build the network? That network, which is something we'll do it through Terraform, which we already discussed how to do it. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, all right. That's it. That's for today, guys. Okay. Thank you. Signing off. Bye.